hoping to win big. But what they didn't know was that one cunning mastermind had been manipulating the whole thing. For 12 years, the game had been rigged, making each player a victim. The promotion was popular since its start in 1987. Thanks to its marketing by the company that brought you the Happy Meal, Monopoly increased McDonald's sales by over 40%. Certain menu items provided customers with the game pieces, small peel-off stickers that could then be placed on the corresponding tiles of the provided game board. At the time, you could even find some magazines with inserts containing the game pieces. But this wasn't just any game. Players had the chance to win big. There was a 1 in 4 chance to win small prizes like food or drink. But beyond that, the stakes became very interesting. Winnings of cash, restaurant gift cards, electronics, cars, boats, vacations, and even homes. But the biggest, most sought-after prize was that of $1 million. All you had to do was get pieces for both Boardwalk and Park Place, unless you happened to come across an elusive instant winning piece. Simple enough, right? Well, as it turned out, no. In fact, you were less likely to win this grand prize in McDonald's Monopoly than you were to win the actual lottery. But even with the 1 in 602 million chances of winning that grand prize, your odds dropped to 0 the moment one man entered the picture, an ex-cop by the name of Jerome Jerry Jacobson. He worked as head of security for the marketing company behind the game, and his job was to ensure the safe and secure distribution of the pieces. The security of these valuable pieces were of the utmost importance to him. He would even go so far as to accompany employees to the bathroom and check their shoes before they were allowed to leave from their shift. But soon, his loyalty to the company would end as temptation filled his mind. It all started when he discovered something shady behind the distribution of the winning pieces. It turned out that any time the random computerized distribution system spit out a Canadian destination, the company would redistribute them somewhere within the United States, effectively ensuring 0 grand prize winners would be coming from Canada. As a result, the Canadian public continued to spend their money at McDonald's in hopes of securing a winning piece that they had no idea would never actually come. It was at this point Jerry decided to take matters into his own hands. He was going to steal the pieces for himself, but first he had to crack the security system. High-level game pieces worth $25,000 or more were heavily guarded. Each winning game piece had some identifying imperfection as well as blacklight coding to make it easy to spot forgeries. This meant that replicating the pieces was out of the question. And security for the pieces themselves included a large vault door at the entrance of the printing area, one that required 2 people to enter passcodes at the same time.
We had a big vault, and when you had winners in, there were 2 locks. It's almost like, back in the Cold War, you'd have 2 people in a missile silo, and it takes 2.
They would then be placed amongst a number of other more common pieces before being sealed in envelopes and sent to their destinations. It seemed he had no chance of getting his hands on the pieces between the printing and their distribution. Those seals in particular were the biggest challenge, but not for long, because by some miracle in Jerry's favour, a large box of these tamper-proof seals was shipped directly to him by mistake. Now he just needed a plan. You see, he was responsible for hand-delivering the pieces to their respective processing facilities across America. But he also happened to be accompanied by a private third-party auditor during these trips. The only place his female travel companion couldn't follow him? The bathroom. He knew that's where he could make his move. With a handful of fresh seals in his pocket, he would tear open the envelope, remove the big prize-winning pieces, replace them with common game pieces, and reseal the package. Now what there was left to do was redeem them, and his plan was simple and truly unbreakable. He clearly couldn't start claiming the winning prizes for himself without drawing suspicion, so he was going to sell them. His first lucky recipient was his stepbrother, to whom he gave a $25,000 winning piece, figuring that their different last names was enough to clear Jerry of any suspicion. And it worked. He then began giving them to his close friends, family and acquaintances in exchange for a percentage of the winnings. Often these people would get someone else to redeem the prize, usually in cities or states far away from their home. He even decided to anonymously send a $1 million winning game piece to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, 3 weeks before Christmas of 1995. All was going smoothly for Jerry, but things were about to become a lot more complicated. A chance meeting at an airport brought a man also named Jerry into his life, Jerry Colombo, an Italian mobster with family ties to the New York Mafia. He ran strip clubs and illegal gambling operations in South Carolina. Jerry gave him the winning piece to a Dodge Viper, to which Colombo actually made the brazen choice of appearing in a McDonald's commercial where he can be seen waving the key to his illegally obtained Viper, a car he actually had to turn down because it was too small for him, instead accepting the cash equivalent. Colombo began selling $1 million game pieces to his family and friends. Colombo would take a percentage of the winnings for himself and Jerry, or Uncle Jerry as he had come to be known by his mafia connections.
And it was just literally it was a monopoly of scams.
But unfortunately for Uncle Jerry, his new associates would ultimately lead to his downfall. Colombo and his wife got into a car accident, and 2 weeks later in the hospital, he died. Uncle Jerry was left without his accomplice. So instead of giving up on the operation altogether, he sought new partners, leaving his mafia community behind. Uncle Jerry had figured everything out. His operations were running smoothly once again with his new accomplices, until one day in 2000, when everything began collapsing because of one phone call.
Hello, this is Special Agent Rick Dent.
You need to look into the big winners of the McDonald's Monopoly game. When you do, you'll see they're all connected to each other and one man named Uncle Jerry.
An anonymous call to the FBI office in Jacksonville, Florida. But the agent didn't take the call seriously, so he made a note and stuck it on his desk to look into later. It wasn't until his partner, Doug Matthews, noticed the note that things started rolling. Curious as to what McDonald's monopoly fraud meant, he started digging. After more thorough research, FBI discovered that all the big winners had been lying about how they got their game pieces. They also found that a number of the winners had been listing their home addresses across the United States, but their annual checks were being rerouted to Jacksonville, where they all actually lived. And with that, the FBI launched Operation Final Answer, after the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire promotion McDonald's also had going at the time. 25 agents were appointed to the case that would include wiretaps and surveillance. They tracked 20,000 phone numbers of McDonald's employees and winners, which ended up equaling 235 tapes full of recorded evidence. A name they heard often when listening in on the winners, Uncle Jerry. They needed to find out who this man was and how these winners had been getting their pieces. After all, this wasn't just some low-level fast food burglary. This was fraud with millions of dollars at play. They decided to hold a meeting with the heads of McDonald's, who were shocked and denied having any idea how this could have been happening. The company was ready to put a halt to the annual game, but before they did that, the FBI convinced McDonald's to allow them to run the promotion a final time. Their plan? An undercover operation that would lead them to Jerry once and for all. They were going to wait for another $1 million winner to be announced and approach the winner under the guise of a film crew. And for this operation, they actually swore in Amy Murray, McDonald's VP of Global Marketing, as an honorary bureau agent for the duration of the case. She dealt with all of the winners and knew how to talk to them. So when Michael Hoover was named as the next winner, they went into action. Disguised as a film crew with a fake company they called Shamrock Productions, they knocked on Michael's front door. They came in with cameras, and Amy asked interview-style questions for Michael. He was asked to visit the convenience store he claimed to have gotten the winning piece from, along with the beach he supposedly visited the same day, telling the undercover agents that he would be using the money to buy a boat. When the undercover agents left, Michael made a phone call unaware they were listening in on every word. He mentioned Uncle Jerry by name, even going so far as to say things like,
"They bought it. All of it."
Little did he know, the crew had bought nothing of his full story, and they had the unsuspecting perpetrators right where they wanted them. The FBI had all the evidence they needed. They swooped in on Uncle Jerry's home in a raid where they seized all of his assets. Anybody with any association to the scam was arrested, and in the end, 50 people were convicted of mail fraud and money laundering. Mastermind Uncle Jerry pled guilty and was sentenced to over 3 years in prison. He also had to pay back $12.5 million in restitution and forfeiture. He finished his sentence and was released in 2006 and still pays $370 every month in restitution. McDonald's effectively cut their ties with Simon Marketing, and as a sort of apology to their loyal and unsuspecting customers, McDonald's gave away $24 million across the United States to random restaurant visitors.
I know McDonald's was victimized, but they didn't lose anything here. But it's all the people that participated in this contest and thought that it was legitimate.